afternoon, everybody, and welcome again to our Hot Topic Huddle. I don't know which number this is. Is it 18 or something?
15.
It's 15? It's a lot of hot topics we've had so far. We really appreciate it. Lorie Vincent has been here several times and back again. And Lorie is part of our program that we have with the City of Smithville and the Workforce Training Center to do some information on economic development. And so today we're talking about tourism and parks and recreation, and I think that's all I need to say to introduce. Yeah. Thank you very much, Lorie. Appreciate it.
Once again, so happy to be in Smithville. We have had kind of a fast and furious year. It's been fun. We have, in some of the Hot Topic Huddles that I've been a part of, we've talked about banking, we've talked about small business, telling your story, housing, workforce development. Let's see, we've had several. And I probably don't remember all of them, but they have all been great. And the whole purpose was for me to bring these topics, to you from an economic development point of view. Obviously, you all work on these on a regular basis through the cities, the counties, your nonprofit organizations, the workforce center, the chamber. But I wanted to give you an economic development perspective on all of these things. Especially as the city begins to develop their next comprehensive plan, and people would be more informed as you make decisions on that moving forward. And mostly, I really wanted to give you some things to think about and to perhaps even give you a different perspective on how to think about some of these topics. They've all been, they're very interactive. I really want to encourage discussion. Always ask a lot of questions, and they've all been fantastic. Everybody's been very engaged. So I appreciate that, and I'm a little sad that we're starting to kind of wind down our time. Next month, I believe we're doing downtown revitalization, and maybe one more, but then we'll be wrapping this all up into a kind of a culmination report in November, where we talk about, I actually compile everything that we've done and talked about, and with some important talking points, some resources, and some recommendations. So, but tonight we're here to talk about parks, recreation, and tourism. All three are related in some way, so it really worked well for us to talk about those together. The things that I wanted to mostly bring to you in this limited amount of time are three things. And we're going to post this presentation also when we post the video as well. I really just want to always bring you some things to think about. So we're going to talk about maximizing and protecting your natural resources as you begin to grow or continue to grow, and perhaps do some different things. We want to talk about what are some of the great opportunities that go along with that, but also what are some of the consequences, especially when we're talking about your natural resources, which are so precious to start with, and that you have an abundance, and it feels like are being underutilized. And so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about why adequate green space is so important to the vitality of a community. That is something people are searching for. It's a very important part of your quality of life, and it definitely can be an economic driver as well. And then the last thing that we're going to talk about is tourism as an economic development driver. I think sometimes we lump tourism in kind of with events, chamber type, objectives, which is true, but it can also serve as a real economic development driver. The generation of sales tax, the bringing in of people, to support small business. There's any number of ways that tourism could be highly supported as an economic development initiative as well. So as always, let's talk about the stakeholders. Who does this affect, and why are we doing this? Who are we talking about when we begin to make decisions that affect your community moving forward? So who would you think would be most affected by decisions about parks, recreation, and tourism?
People that are already here.
Absolutely. Your existing citizens. We always want to start with that. Because as I've always said, I think business retention and expansion is more important than business recruitment, or at least should be done simultaneously, but not in lieu of. I feel like everything that you do the citizens in your community who are already vested in your community, they're already paying taxes in your community, they have already said, yes, I choose to live here, they should be your first and foremost priority. Because if they're happy, that makes a healthy community, that makes a very engaged and vibrant community, and then it becomes a magnet for other people. And imagine trying to get people to move here or to even just stop here and spend a little money if your community is not happy, if they're not satisfied, or if they're not content with the amenities that are provided. So first and foremost, those citizens, your existing citizens, listen to them first. They're the ones paying for this. So
we're having younger people with children and families move here, and that's one thing they're looking for is activities for their kids, parks, recreation, water activities, things like
Right.
that. That's also people that are coming here with their families for tourism. That's what they're looking for.
that is exactly right. I think I probably shared this at our very first meeting when we were over at City Hall, but I will share this again when we kind of do our big wrap up. What people are looking for when they're choosing where to live. And it's a poll that's done every other year, and they poll 1,000 people, and they just say, what are the factors that are your decision makers on where you decide where and it could be you asking you, why are you choosing to stay where you live, or what are people looking for if they're looking, for a place to live. All different ages, all different genders. It's a very random poll, but it has proven to be very true over the years, very predictive. And quality of life is always on there, but instead of doing quality of life as just this big general kind of abstract thing, about 10 years ago, they took quality of life out and they actually started putting specific quality of life factors in. Is it affordable housing? Is it parks and recreation? Is it nightlife? Is it, though they really drilled down a little further than just that general quality of life, which is great. And for the last, I would say it started before COVID, parks, recreation, green space, water sports, hiking, bike trails, that sort of thing, wasn't even on the list, on the top 10 list, and now it is. And I think that our pandemic period of being kind of closed up, where that was a little bit of all that we could do was be outside, taking walks or spending time outside, maybe not with others, but people started to have a new appreciation for the outdoors. I think our youngsters always have, but even I did. It definitely changed, how I feel about how close I might live to a lake, or I don't bike or hike, but I love to walk, and so I love really cool walking trails. But I golf, and they're now, and also at my age, probably my list of things that are going to be a factor where I decide to live has also changed. But I think we'd be remiss if we didn't take into consideration now that families, as they move in, or your existing families here, would not want nor appreciate, they would want and appreciate really high quality green space. And that could be natural parks, it could be planned parks, it could be parks with recreational activities, or it could be recreational facilities. There's a whole drill down that we could do when we start talking about parks and recreation. Generally, they do follow under the auspice of the city, and it's a department at the city, and it's usually on public property. So we also have to take that in consideration when the community starts saying, well, we need a baseball field, and we need a swimming pool, and we need a splash pad, and we need a dog park. It's easy to say that, but not always easy to pay for it, or who's going to maintain it. And so those are things to consider as well. And yes, absolutely.
At Brooksher Brothers, I was coming out, and this couple was in the car, and I don't know, I just said hi, and they said, oh, and they stopped me, and, oh, do you live here? We're looking to buy a house here. And in fact, I knew a house they could go look at. They said, are you familiar with this house? I go, yeah, my God, that's my friend. She's selling this house. Anyway, they were from West Texas, right? And the first question they said is, do you have water here? Because they had gone to Fredericksburg, they'd gone to Wimberley, there's such a shortage of water in the western, Texas, right?
Really?
So they were really concerned about, do we have water here? I go, oh yeah, we have water.
Yeah.
We're good on water.
So,
So, that was their thing, they're looking for water.
They are. I mean, obviously I'm from West Texas too, and it's very brown. And when you begin to want green and trees, that's part of your story, and it should be part of your story. But I absolutely can see that. And so let's talk about a few more of the stakeholders, and then we'll start talking about these topics individually. So in addition to the citizens, obviously we have to take into consideration the city of Smithville and what their obligation is and their role in providing parks and recreational space. Because honestly, you can have too much as well. You can have too much where it's not the best and highest use of all your property. And so it's really difficult and important to find that balance of what's enough and what's too much to maintain. As I've said from the very beginning, every piece of property in your town has a highest and best use. Unfortunately, because these cities now are, over 100 years old, not all of our property can be used for its highest and best use because it's already being used for something else that can't be changed. We have to accept that. But when there is property that we do have the ability to say, we can do something with this, then we need to start talking about the highest and best use of that property. For example, you wouldn't put a park on a four-way intersection, right? You wouldn't. What would you put on a four-way intersection? You would probably put some revenue-generating businesses that perhaps, that's why you see convenience stores and fast food and that sort of thing on very high traffic driven. And parks don't really want to be next to trucks driving through and people stopped and, they're just, obviously that's not the highest and best use of property. Also, maybe somebody would go, that would make a great park, but if it didn't have access to water, or if it's miles away from being able to get water, then it's not the highest and best use also for parks, so, or even for other things. So I think it's very important as you look at your overall map of your city and your county, even of your region, you begin to look at a lot of things like, where is the water? Where do we have access? How far do our utility lines go? Or how do we have access? Where's the main roads? Where's the farm and market roads? Where are the closest housing developments? You're not going to put a manufacturing company right next to the school. Maybe a firm that does plant or shift work. You really don't want them and the school kids driving through on the same road at the same time. Those are all things, that we need to think about, and it probably comes up more often than not, either in talking about recruitment issues or parks and recreation issues. Obviously a little bit too in housing, but really those are very critical discussions that need to take place when you talk about your parks. Now, from what I can tell, you already have great parks in the city. Do you feel like all of the city has a park? Like a park they could call their own, a neighborhood park, or do you have, everybody has access to plenty of parks?
It's like 10 parks, 10?
Well, there's 11 on the books.
11 on the
I know.
One is kind of, one is not, wouldn't be useful as a park, but Parks Department maintains it. It's more like a culvert kind of thing.
Yeah.
We have a huge, beautiful riverbed park,
Yeah.
which we're using right now for workforce training, which is nice.
Right.
It's utilized quite a bit.
Yes.
It's a big park, it has to be maintained. I mean, the toilets, you gotta put toilet paper in there, it's gotta be maintained, it's a
Yeah.
big deal.
Right.
You got MLK Park, that one's used a lot.
I think a couple of parks probably could have a few more amenities for the area of the town that they're in. They don't necessarily have all the amenities
That they-
for every part of the town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we have a
then,
beautiful, 72,000 or 52,000 square foot recreation center.
Right,
It's amazing.
right.
Yeah.
yeah, you are already really in such a great place. It's a matter of filling in the gaps,
Yeah.
and prioritizing. And honestly, Jill, maybe you can speak to this, but that out of everything we talk about in economic development, this is probably the one topic that has the most ability to grab some grants for some of those things. For maybe not for everything.
But yeah, there are a few. There's the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department has a
Right.
big grant that comes up every couple, and including, so it's just a small community park
Mhm.
grant, and then also a ramp grant for, our river access, which is really
Yeah.
great. We used that, I think we used that once before I was on board, so
Mhm.
this is already more than, 15 years ago or
Right.
so. And I think we're probably due for some improvements, so that is, it's kind of on the list. I've talked to Jack about that a couple of times. But there's other, it's one of those things that really is a community service kind of
Right.
thing. So there'd be ways for us to improvements in our existing parks.
Mhm.
We've done that several times. So yeah, we can, absolutely, we can find
So-
some to do some things.
So, okay, perfect. I mean, the good news is we're not starting from scratch at all. We're really going to take what you have and just enhance it and fill in some gaps and begin to prioritize, as you have the ability to, obtain some funds here and there, or be ready. You could already have kind of that wish list of, well, we need a few more amenities at this park, we need some improvements at this park, and just kind of have that working list, as well as, what the estimated cost would be. It might happen this year, it might happen next year, but those things come up and you just have to be ready. And if you've already kind of had that discussion and set your priorities, then you're not every month going back and going, oh gosh, what are we gonna do now? And so it sounds like you're all completely ready.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
So like we've got, since the schools have to have such tight security now, but back in the day, you could go to the school and you could use their
Right.
playground. Well, you can't do that here. And we got beautiful playgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came under a grant when we've asked them about it over by the administrative. They've got all of those parks, but they're only open to the children that are going to school there
Because of security.
because of that, and because they're afraid that if they leave them open after hours, that the playground equipment will get destroyed. And I've
Yeah.
talked to them about that, so that's just something I don't think we can overcome
Do
that.
you see that though in other communities yet?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Definitely. I mean, when I was growing up, every park all over town, every school was available to everybody all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now even, I was just at my hometown this weekend, 40th high school reunion, believe it or not. And we took a tour of a lot of the school facilities, and they're closed, for liability purposes and for protection as
yes,
well.
yes.
After hours. In fact, people can't even walk on the track anymore, and I'm like, I can't imagine, because,
Really?
yeah,
You can do that.
yeah,
We're
they just,
fortunate, they fenced around it so that you can still go to the track. For my house, though, I have to go all the way around the campus to get there
to get
now.
there.
But I can do it.
Good.
Hence,
Because
it's-
oftentimes at night, that's the most well-lit, safe place. People are always going by, it's not dark, and I know in my communities, that's always been a real safe place that people, but, all it takes is one thing to happen,
And that's it.
And then they
That's-
shut it down.
that's-
Yeah.
They shut it down.
and
The
it's
other-
understandable too.
The other thing is where our river access is, it's mainly homes that line the whole side. We don't really have that great of access to the river. I wished we could do something over in the other side of the Hurdle Estates where I thought we were gonna have a park there that would go down to the river. Those lots are empty. I wish we could figure out a way to get some of those to
Have
maybe in
access.
Grand
They're
County.
empty, but somebody
Yes.
owns them.
Yeah.
Aren't they all sold along the river?
Did they get sold? They weren't sold for a while, but they may be sold now. I know that he told me that he was almost sold out. I talked to Brooke some time back. So they may be all gone. But if they are, they're not building on them. They're just open land. So,
When we talk about recreational activities, another stakeholder is the school. So even if, or school-age children,
Yeah.
so even if perhaps, I don't know, does your school have an indoor swimming pool?
No.
A lot of communities, they do. And it's for the school children during school, but then they also have access to it to have swim meets and that sort of thing on the weekend, which then in turn turns it into a tourism, opportunity to bring people from town, just like baseball parks, little softball parks and stuff.
And we do have, so we don't have a pool, but we have Little League fields, and we're talking with the Little League group to try to do some things to help improve those fields, because they do want to have tournaments there. And then the other thing is, I don't know how good the current team is, or the tennis coach retired a couple years ago, I guess, 2 years ago. But we have 4 tennis courts, and we need to have 8 to be able to have tournaments, but each tennis court is $50,000. And so there was a family group that we need to petition the school to build them, but that's a lot of money for the school to give up. And so we have to, if we were going to do, it really what it's going to take is those types of activities. We have the beginning of something, and we need to find out where those investments need to come from, and how are we going to garner the support, and then bring money in and find the grants and all the rest of the stuff.
And it's like if you're going to have 8 tennis courts, you wish that at least a few of them could be adapted to pickleball courts, because that's the most popular thing.
That is.
For non-children age. But they're popping up here, there, and yonder now, and
Yeah, Rec Center does a pickleball in the gym.
in the gym, see? So,
Too bad we don't have and I'm gonna date myself, it's too bad we don't have an organization like Boys Clubs that would be either in Bastrop or somewhere here close that we could use. Because when I was a kid, I lived at the Boys Clubs. I'm sorry, that's just where we all lived.
yeah.
But that's not where they live now. They wouldn't even want to go there.
Well, there's the Kids Outdoor Zone has
Yes.
a similar, it's not, yes, yeah, so we could potentially, there's potential there for some
Absolutely.
partnerships. Yeah.
So the last of our stakeholders are your existing employers and people even who may not live here but are driving in that work here, and potential citizens and potential employees, because that's what they're going to say, what is there to do here?
Right.
And they're going to be probably asking on behalf of maybe what their kids' age is now, but those kids are also going to grow. And so being able to articulate to them that we have this, this, and this, and we're also working on this, this, and this, then that would give them some comfort that it is a priority to this community to continue to maintain the whole parks and recreation factor in that quality of life piece. I would think that for many of them, perhaps they get a job here, but it would determine whether they actually live here instead of in a nearby community. So it may not be the final reason, but it would definitely, to many, my younger siblings who still have kids in school, definitely would be a factor. They would want to know, what are my kids going to do after school, or what are we going to do on the weekends, or for younger families that like to do things together, where can we swim, where can we hike, where can we bike, where can we camp? Just having an answer for those things. You already have a lot of stuff to say, so it may just be a matter of pulling it together into a really nice marketing piece where you can say, not only can you live here, but you can play here as well. So,
I think right now you have to list area amenities rather than the ones just in this town. I mean, you have to go to neighboring towns
Right.
to do the full thing.
yeah.
And then you could say, within this many
Many
miles.
miles.
It doesn't help the younger kids unless their parents are able and willing to drive them, but it still is amenities within a reasonable distance with relatively low traffic.
Right.
Busher State Park and.
Sure.
And when they have the Little League games and things like that, they usually travel to Bastrop, or they go to LaGrange, you know, they plan intramural things, so they're definitely using the area.
Now, do you feel like, and I'm saying this out of total ignorance, for the Little League games or the tournaments or even the softball, the adult softball tournaments and things, do you think not having more hotels would be a hindrance for that? Or do you think if you had really awesome facilities for that, the hotels would come, that would be an attraction for that, but also people are happy to drive 20 miles to stay somewhere else? It's not a problem.
No, that's not a problem. I don't know that, we just don't have the economic driver to get them here yet. I mean, building's gonna be coming, and when that comes, it is coming down the road. Then that's going to bring it, but
Yeah.
I think at this point, when they come and they play in tournaments and leagues, they stay in Bastrop.
Or Airbnb.
Airbnbs are a big thing.
Yeah.
That way they got the whole family, they don't have to, they can stay right
They can all
close at
stay
hand.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it is an economic driver if we get the Little League teams to come here, because we have beautiful fields, and we can really make some money doing those types of tournaments.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure.
From everything from selling them, you know, stuff that what they need, and having the high schools that could sell their, not high schools, but people could sell shirts from Smithville, stuff like that. They all want that kind of stuff. Oh, we went there for a tournament. We want to remember being there. So that's a
And
big
the
deal.
football league too, is there the youth football leagues, does it still happen?
I don't think so. I'm not at Parks and Rec. I'm sorry Ashley couldn't be here tonight, but for my understanding is that they do little kickers, they do little dribblers. We've got the Little League is their own thing.
It's growing. It's growing.
But football kind of comes and goes, and that we don't have the little football group, as far as I'm aware at this time.
It's more of a soccer thing here,
Yeah.
I've seen. Soccer is really popular here in town.
Oh, okay.
Because I see them out on the field where everybody walks up by the administration. I keep calling it the high school. To me, it's the high school. And that's, sorry, AGM, but that's where everybody goes. They play Saturday and Sunday, and they have all sorts of stuff there on the weekends during the fall. I mean, I'm hoping that the school's making money off the concession. It should be, or other nonprofit groups, because that place is crowded. You can't even get around it. I live in front of it. I know.
Yeah, it's the nonprofits, reserve the space
Yeah.
to do it, and
Yeah,
they make the
and
money.
they are. It is really packed.
I did not know soccer had gotten so big. I remember when it started at the high school.
Mm-hmm.
So that to me hasn't been that many years ago,
Do
relatively.
you still have an intern, Jill, or they not?
No, they all went back.
I was gonna say that's a perfect 2-day project to
I know,
have
it'd be
somebody really compile
Yeah.
all of your parks, what takes place in those parks, what are the amenities at those
Well,
parks, what are the
I
activities?
just have to check with Ashley. I
She
know she
probably
has.
has that.
She has a, she
Yeah.
has a really good breakdown of what happens at Riverbend Park, partly because people have to reserve spaces for camping and things
Right.
like that. So she has as far as anything that people have to reserve the space for, she's got a
She
lot of
has,
numbers.
yeah.
I'm not so sure about some of the other
Other
parks that we
schools,
heard. And
yeah.
one of the things that we were talking about doing was trying to set up a sign with a QR code that basically would have a short survey saying, thank you for coming, and
Mhm.
why are you here? You know, and just
Right.
have something like, you're only here for how much time were you here? Did you bring your family? Was
Right.
it a tournament? You know, like whatever it might be.
Did you-
And so we haven't got that implemented yet, but that's on the books.
Yeah, it's probably, you might have it, just not like compiled into
Yeah,
one
it's not
place
compiled.
where we could
Yeah, well, and
access
it's-
it.
It's getting there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's just not as robust as we would like it to be,
Mhm.
but she's already thinking about how to do that. And
Right.
so we're just, in
Yeah.
the budget process, I'll talk with her about where her signage is.
Yeah. Well, that's an important thing. Lights, signage, cameras sometimes, really the safety and security thing, especially evening.
Kids,
Like
absolutely.
what's the word I'm looking for? To keep people from vandalizing things if they think. oh,
Deterrence.
Deterrent, yeah,
Yes.
deterrent. And also, enhances the liability of the city, just having those kind of security things. But we really, it stays light, throughout the summer, but it gets pretty dark in the wintertime, and, but not that cold down here, so people are still out and about. So, Well, let me ask you some questions on the topic of parks and recreation. What are the greatest benefits of vibrant green space, parks, and recreational facilities? What do you feel like are the greatest benefits to the city?
Well, I would think that it has to do with the health of the community.
Absolutely.
So, and having that, yeah, and we have the It's Time Texas Community Challenge that we
Mhm.
participate in, have participated in for several years. The Smithville Whole Health Partnership. So there's entities that are interested in trying to do things to promote health benefits, yeah, and mental health benefits as well as.
Absolutely.
Library, clinic, yeah.
Yeah, and
Hospital.
They have the seniors down at the rec center, they have a place for them so they stay engaged together, they're not by
Perfect.
themselves, things like
Mhm.
that. You know, just walking around the city in the morning, I mean, I see people all the time.
So
And,
socializing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
that's right.
socialization thing.
Good.
Community. yeah.
So you guys already recognize that is the number one benefit when you ask people is really for health and mental health benefits to the community.
Absolutely.
So imagine if you didn't have them. I mean, imagine going into a city
Oh,
where there's no
it's
parks.
culture.
You already said you have an inventory and you're able to identify the availability of that. So what does it mean to the local citizen and what does it mean to the potential for tourism? That you already have a really great inventory of parks. They may have a few gaps, like you said, you know, there's still some things that could enhance them. But as a local taxpayer, you're good with some of your money going to the support of parks and recreation.
Absolutely.
And you don't hear many complaints from people. They may want more stuff, but they're not complaining about their tax dollars going to the support of parks and rec. Because sometimes that is an issue in some communities, but I'm glad it's not for you.
I think Smithville, they've been maintaining and upgrading the parks, the playground equipment and everything else. They're always doing something. I mean, at one of the parks, I
That's
see
right.
somebody there. So, and I think there's in the budget this year, I'm hoping there's gonna be
There is.
more money for it. Yeah, that's what I've seen.
I've never heard I've been in Smithville for 26 years, and I've never heard anybody complain about
No.
Perfect.
putting money towards parks.
Maybe the dog park. I've had a lot of comments about our dog.
There wasn't at the time when it was
But
built.
Yeah, but I mean, just maybe some upgrades, because a lot of
Yeah.
people have pets.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
Well, and that's, I think, the thing, they don't mind, they want upgrades, so it's not like they are
No.
not wanting to fund something, it's that they
Correct.
want to see the amenity.
And there's always some new
Yeah.
cool thing coming out that everybody would like to have.
Yeah.
So what,
Good discussion.
give me just a couple of ideas of places where you have been that you like the parks somewhere else. You know, just so that we can kind of have some case studies of either something that you like or something that you don't like.
Ooh, I was in one in downtown Houston, and it had an underground garage, but it was like, so it was kind of built up over a hill too, and it had 2 parking levels down, and there were walkways through there and trees lining every path, and they had like a center space, it was big, they had kind of a center space where you could have events and things happening, and they had the water fountain, and they had this stuff, and it was just and they had art. It was a really interesting park going downtown. You know which one I'm talking about?
I think so.
Yeah, the one with the, yeah.
Yeah.
So I liked that one because it was so
It
interesting.
was interesting.
And then I
Yeah.
loved the one in downtown Dallas, but it had more of a plaza feel, like you felt like you're in Europe.
Mhm.
Except you have all these really tall buildings all the way around it. And on one corner, they had a big old sign on the corner that would change images, like 3D images. And like you used to think of Japan, you know, their big
Oh,
billboards
yeah.
on the side of a building. And they had a huge statue too there, but it had a really neat plaza feel, and again, trees around it. And there was a lot of music going on, and there were businesses around it that had patios, outdoor patios, and it just was a cool vibe.
Yeah, there was some energy.
Now, there's, in Cleveland, Ohio, they call it the Emerald Belt. The metro parks, I grew up in Cleveland. I
Mhm.
mean, there's just this green space everywhere. And I went back and I go, oh my gosh, why did I leave? This is just, you know, everywhere you go, it's just, you go into a neighborhood, but you've got the park that's attached to it,
Mm-hmm.
called the Emerald City.
I know.
It's cool in the winter, yeah.
I went to Calvary
But the
about
parks are cool.
5 years ago, and the outer part of there, what used to be where they had the Olympics that year,
Mhm.
now they've taken it and they've surrounded the whole area with stores and things like that, places to eat, and the whole inside is a park, recreation center. You can shop, the kids have a place to be, they can watch and do whatever they want to do. It's an economic development that combines the tourism and everything else. It was really a
A
neat
great
place.
repurpose of their structures that
Yes.
they built for the Olympics.
Yes, they repurposed.
And you know, almost
one
every
part of it.
city that, that bids on the Olympics, that is part of their bid process, is to explain what they're going to do with those facilities afterwards.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you been to Splashway Park, anybody here? It's some little city, it's just right up the
Yeah.
road on the way.
Yeah, I had a 5-year-old for a whole year. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Season pass,
When
season
they're five for
pass.
a year, you have them for that
Oh,
year.
sorry, I don't know about the rest of the community.
But I mean, it's
but-
Splashway, it's
something
something,
else.
you know, it's like a destination.
Yes.
Yeah, it is, yeah. 'Cause you
Jerry
don't know
Baxter
where
takes his kids over there all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
he
great.
thinks
especially
that's the
when they're-
place to be.
when they're little like that, because you know, like you go to SeaWorld or you go, you know, like one of those big places and they're running off and you can't see them, but Splashway is easy.
Yes, yes, and you can take care of them. and-
Oh,
yeah.
they're over there.
There.
Yeah, I see
But
that
if we
here.
could
Wow.
become a destination like
Yeah.
that here, because we
Mhm.
have the quaintness, we have the charm, if we could become a destination, we're far
Absolutely.
enough away to where people would be drawn to it.
Yes,
Is there a
ma'am.
way to do a smaller water feature that, like a lazy river type of thing, like the Hyatt or something else that would not be quite as splashy as a
Right.
splashway, but that is more doable
Yeah,
here?
with investors, yeah, you can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
it
really
all
is
takes
the
its
best
money.
of things.
So
Yeah.
the issue always is not so much the building of it, but the maintaining
Maintaining
of
of
it.
it.
And having, you know, if you need the lifeguards there, last year they didn't open up a lot of pools because they couldn't get lifeguards. And so it's
Right.
like the chemicals and the whole, you know, like the keeping people
That's
safe
right.
and the insurance and the, so it's not always about the building it.
It's the
It's
long
about
term,
after, yes.
the sustainability of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. That's why we don't have a pool.
One of my
We could
one of
go
my
there.
favorite places, or one of my favorite memories, I went to college in Kerrville, Texas,
Oh, beautiful.
Shrine University.
Mhm.
Very beautiful. You know, like I said, I came from the Panhandle where there's no trees and water, so I was very attracted to living someplace and going away to school where there were trees and water. And that's right in the heart of the hill country. Very similar river type access like you all have. And we would go on the nights and weekends to the little town of Ingram, which is about 15 miles from Kerrville.
Right.
The river runs through it. It's where a lot of the summer camps are out there,
Yeah,
Hardin Hills
yeah.
Camp and some others. But we went dam sliding and we rented kayaks and we went canoeing. We went tree swinging. We really just took advantage of what was at the river. And in a way, I know y'all talked about you really don't have that river access. It's like if you could get a little bit where you could, you could monetize the maintenance of it by renting, I don't even call them shacks, but just, little things like they have at Lady Bird Lake, where somebody can rent canoes and rent kayaks and paddles, everybody loves to do that, stand-up paddle boards. And where your river can begin to be utilized, and then you would probably get some people coming in, without more camping spaces or, that development, but you start having people here enjoying your water,
Mhm.
then the next thing, people will start doing more Airbnbs. They will start, going, wow, I think I'll put 10 RV spots in over here.
They are.
And
They are already.
yeah, they are already.
Yeah.
But your river, people are going to somewhere else on the river to do the activity.
We have.
And then maybe they're getting all the way down here, but they're going back. I'm trying to figure out how do we capture, how can you begin the beginning and the end instead of an in-between?
If we could get to the other side
Yeah.
of the old bridge that's been torn down where the pylons are still in the river, if we could get access just somewhere the other side of that, we wouldn't have a problem. Because I've talked to LCRA and Parks and Wildlife, it's gonna take a major thing to get
Yes.
those out.
Yes.
They're not willing to do it.
No.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
we might be able to get them to, okay, we'll do half of it if y'all can do the other half, but it's a big undertaking.
Isn't there a house for sale at the end of Main Street? The blue house?
Oh, is it for sale now?
Isn't it?
Oh, cool.
No? Did I make that up?
I don't know, I haven't
But
been
the
down.
I haven't
VFW
been
now,
by.
the VFW allows Jamie and her company to have, you know, they
Yeah,
have
Rising Phoenix
shacks, and go
Adventures.
down there, yeah, Phoenix.
Rising Phoenix
Rising
Adventures,
Yeah,
yeah.
you go down there now, they're cleaning up that whole park area.
And they
Just cool.
rent canoes, kayaks, paddleboards, all that, and they'll even take guides with you. The guides go with you if you want.
So you're already doing that, but if I look it up on the internet, I don't see
You
any
ain't
of
gonna see
that.
anything.
I
But
don't
in-
see any of that.
In 1973, I came down to Bastrop and I floated, I took a canoe and I went all the way down the river. I had to pull a canoe quite a few places, but I went all the way down to Columbus. I mean, we did that twice in 2 years. It was one of the best times I ever had.
And somebody just
We
picked
spent
you
the
up
night,
down
yeah,
there?
yeah, we went in,
Yeah.
we spent the night on the bank and everything. We fished, we just had a great time. Was so sunburned I couldn't hardly see straight.
That's like
Well,
that.
Yes,
so
this
you
is it.
have to-
That's why I
So my last question on
the
doing
the last two questions on this topic is,
I think that's a good
Um,
one.
that's a great story,
Yeah.
Jamie a little bit.
but a lot of people probably don't even know you can do that.
Mhm.
I don't want to own any of that stuff, but I love to do that stuff. So
Mhm.
I'm all about renting something for the day or the weekend or whatever. And I know there's a lot of other people like that as well. Otherwise, Lady Bird Johnson Lake wouldn't be filled with those people every single weekend. And you know, they can't, there's no boats are allowed, no motorboats are allowed. So it's all recreation. It's all canoes, paddle boats, kayaks, mostly. I think you can fish off the bank, but you can in the lake. So what are some of the marketing avenues that would highlight and feature some of these things that you're talking about? Your Little League Park, the place at the river where you can rent some things, or
How do we
splash
get
pad.
the word out is what you're asking?
Well,
In that
there's,
regard?
and always consider that there's two kinds of marketing. There's internal marketing in your community, and there's external marketing, which are often two completely different things.
They're very much two different things.
Very much, yeah. So be thinking about those things, because I was looking last night, I was just looking, and in preparation for this, just kind of looking to see, I was pretending to be somebody who might be interested in living here. And, you know, part of my final report to you all will be kind of an external perceptions report. But I can tell you just from as I've gotten to know you all throughout the year, and Smithville in general, I still don't know a lot of details, but you're like this really awesome surprise and this best kept secret that's
Yeah,
the
we don't wanna
worst
do that.
marketing concept ever.
Yeah.
And, but it would be, I mean, I've been in a lot of communities where it's an unpleasant surprise when I get here. I just keep finding more and more little jewels and little nuggets, and so, I think marketing is a missing piece. And then what can you do to ensure that your parks and recreational facilities remain an asset, not a liability, and that they just remain a priority to the community? By already having an apartment, that helps, because a lot of cities don't, you know, maybe it's part of somebody's job, but it's not a department where it's somebody's, you know, every day they get up and they go, okay, what am I gonna do to make sure our parks are good? So you're good. You know, I think you're good there, but parks can be your best asset, or they can be your worst liability. If they're not maintained, if they're not well lit, if they're not utilized, if the equipment gets old and you know, rickety and dangerous, then this becomes a liability. And then I think you all also have some opportunities that you're just not quite taking advantage of yet.
The
Yeah.
river has been like a point of contention probably the last 15 years.
Probably more than that.
Maybe more than that.
I
But it's been more than that. I
River
reached
boats, and
out.
then they do want a swimming pool, like, okay, will somebody take charge, and then you lead that effort on that swimming pool, find out how much it's gonna be,
Yeah.
blah, 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 you know, but you gotta have lead people
Yeah,
that really wanna do the
right.
work.
Exactly.
if they're, you don't have those same, you got the same people there to do the work, right? So, I mean, stuff could probably happen that way.
Well, and as Jill said, already, I can tell you almost everywhere I've been this summer, they've had trouble with lifeguards. And there is such a huge liability to the city. Just the insurance policy on it alone is so astronomical. It's just a money sucker. And but if it's important to the community, you know, a lot of people are willing to accept that. And in many places, probably maybe they can be open longer down here. But if you start getting north, you know, it's really a 3-month asset. And then for 9 months, it's a liability.
It's the opposite
And
here.
It's the opposite here, exactly. So let's talk about tourism for a little bit. What do you feel are your most prevalent tourism assets? I mean, obviously you've got the river, you've got downtown.
The river isn't the most prevalent.
It isn't.
It's the downtown.
Quiet,
It's
charming.
It's Hope Floats.
It's Hope
It's Hope
Floats.
Floats.
Yes, it is.
It's a big thing.
What?
Hope Floats, the movie.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Tree
absolutely.
life, people come over from Idaho to look at the tree life.
Yeah.
I go, oh, I got one of those.
We have
Yeah.
a brochure that talks about all, that you can do your own tour.
Tour, uh-huh.
Brochure, all the movies.
I think the movie piece is.
Okay, where would somebody find that?
Well, at the chamber.
At the chamber,
chamber.
okay.
And I think there's a couple
But-
other
Which is a
places.
logical
Depends
place
on-
for it.
I've been looking into, I contacted Texas Department of Transportation and how do we get brochures into their travel centers. And it took quite a few calls, but I found that I talked to them, and all we have to do is design the brochure. It gets approved by their department. Then they give us the list of all the travel centers.
You get in there.
Then we just mail them to them and they put them up.
Correct. That's
And
what we
that's-
do at the county.
Yeah, and that's all we have to do. It's not a long deal. I was trying to do it for, I was trying to get it involved for the bed and breakfasts and stuff, because they could use the hot tax money, and they could also say nighttime entertainment with live bands, and they could make those brochures through the chamber and get that out.
Yeah.
I gave them all the information.
Well,
That's
we
as
put
far
out
as
a
I can go
beautiful
with it.
78957 magazine for 2 years in a row.
Mhm.
Beautiful magazine. There's
Mhm.
thousands of copies have been
Yeah.
distributed. It was a great marketing. I don't know if you've got to ever look at
Mhm.
it. Have you seen it?
No?
It's amazing.
I've got copies as
Gotta
well.
see it.
Awesome, okay.
Now, we're not doing one, I mean, it's expensive.
It is very
Right?
expensive.
And you guys did one for yours, right?
But having that piece, that's only half of it.
Yeah.
I mean,
But it's also because
it's getting it into the
sells
hands of
ads,
the people
too,
that
so
will
it's not
actually
Yeah.
do something with it.
Yeah.
So let me share this statistic with you. When people come to your community, they want to do at least 3 things. That's what statistics say. So people generally won't pull off of the road for just one thing unless they're like me and my fuel light came on the way here. So I would have been stopping at the next town no matter what. But generally when people plan their day or they plan a trip or they go somewhere, they're going to want to do at least 3 things. But it could be a whole combination of things. It could be, they could be traveling, and so they're gonna look and see where's the next dog park, a place we can grab a bite, probably sit outside because they have a pet, and maybe they're gonna get gas while they're here. Or maybe they're traveling and they're very interested in history, so they're gonna look up and see where's the, you know, is there a museum nearby? Is there a historical trail? Is, you know, historical homes? So you want to make sure those are, the information about that is easy to get. People also are very interested in galleries. And I know you've got some really great galleries here, so they're probably gonna, you know, they may actually make the drive, they're gonna eat, they may go to a couple of galleries, and then maybe a shop. So when we're talking about tourism, that's a completely different thought. That market is a completely different market than, well, what do people who live here, what are they going to do? Because, you know, we're talking about both things tonight. What are we going to do for recreation for the people that live here? They're choosing to live here. Maybe they have small children, so they live near a park, they love the river, they play soccer, you know, all of these assets that you have. But when we're talking about pulling people off of the road to spend outside dollars in your community, which is what you want,
Yes.
That just is a revenue generator for the community and, for your small businesses. Then people generally won't, they're gonna come in and go eat at Pockets for lunch, then they may stop to get snacks for the road on the way out, or they're gonna stop and get gas, or they're more than likely gonna maybe go to at least something within sight. And we're gonna talk more about that when we talk about downtowns, what people look for, what statistics show when they go to a downtown area, what all they do. But you have things really beyond your downtown that are a draw.
When we get the pilot, and we're gonna have a pilot at 71, a pilot station, I think that's going to be a place where people can stop. Maybe we can get the guy to let us put brochures and stuff in this part of the place
Yes,
so that they can go, hey, we need to go, this is a movie town. They
Right.
make movies here. We can go look around and see stuff.
So I know I mentioned this last time, but I'm gonna mention it again, just because I think it's an important case study. So y'all aren't very far from Round Top, right?
No.
So I've lived down here for 9 years, I've been working down here for 30 years. But for some reason, those 2 weekends, and for the longest time, it was only one week during the year, then they have the spring and the fall. And for some reason, I never can make it. And I'm a little reluctant to just jump in the fray anyway, but they've gotten so big. But lately, I have been there a couple of times because I was, working in the area, and I detoured because I wanted to see what it was all about. Because they have a lot of stuff out on the web that you can read all about it. And I kept thinking, I gotta see this town of 900.
It's amazing.
And
Yeah.
they have really figured out
Yes.
how to, on their marketing, but they have maximized the people are gonna stop here for at least 3 things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They have figured out that, and even Junk Gypsy, which is their biggest draw during during the non-Round Top weeks, people go there, and that's a destination.
And then the restaurants and
And
everything
in
there.
Yeah.
Yes,
Little
it's-
shops, yeah.
so now a lot of those shops have gotten smarter about staying open, when they open. There's probably, I think they said 25 or 30 new cottages and
It's
Airbnbs.
magical, that town.
It is.
You're
It's a
right.
real enigma.
Yes.
It's like this little oasis. And they may never get bigger than 900 or 1,000 people.
It's amazing.
And I stopped in a lot of the shops out of curiosity, and a lot of those people don't live in Round Top. They live somewhere else, but they have figured out that that's a really big potential market where they can be a big fish in a little pond. And if they market it right, then for the people that are coming to Junk Gypsy, then so they started doing cooperative marketing. And now on all of their brochures, they're listing 10 or 12 things that you can see all year long. 4 or 5 restaurants, 7 or 8 shops that are open all the time. Well, that makes it worth the drive for somebody. Or grab a couple of girlfriends and go over the weekend, or maybe you're interested in the food or the seafood or whatever they're doing. But I think they're a great case study because when people go, we can't do that. Oh yeah, you can. You can do that.
You can
If
do
they
that.
can do that, you can do that. It may not be, and I've always told everybody, don't copy everybody else. Be you. Find something that's unique to you. And you've got the Hope Float things. You've got this great historical downtown.
They're housing
You've got the
people
river.
all
It's
way.
beautiful.
You
So
got Smitty.
Yes. you got-
yeah. So
We got a
hey,
world record in
Right.
this town.
it's just
Yes.
you have all the pieces. It's just a matter of turning it into an experience. A visit to Smithville should be an
Yeah, that
experience.
Round Top's something else. So, most of those people that do come into there, I have an Airbnb here, but those people are coming all the way to Smithville to stay because they're booked.
Oh, yeah.
They're booked all the way
It's
out.
one of the things we promote, even though I work for the county, the tourism department, and we promote
Okay.
Round Top, but for staying in Bastrop County.
Yeah.
The whole
Exactly.
thing is about,
Getting old.
I saw
if
that.
you wanna go,
I
but
saw
come
that.
here, it's for
Yeah.
BastropCounty.com, that's
Same thing.
us.
Yeah.
And so,
Circle of America.
We do it with Circus of the Americas, even though technically it's not in our county.
Yeah.
We do it with.
But the
any
proximity of it
attraction.
is really important.
But you're right, we could be, I mean, not like them, but we have the character to do it.
You do.
You do.
I mean, in a completely different way, but definitely,
There's another meeting, I
Okay.
apologize, they need to use the space, so we're gonna have to just wrap up. and
That's
thank
okay.
you, Lori.
yes, no, I'm gonna, let's close, just give me 20 seconds.
Okay, 20 seconds.
Okay, I'm just gonna leave you with these thoughts, and then we'll give them to Andy and he'll upload them. Imagine a city with no green space. So when you start, yeah, okay, so that's why it's important. When you start going, oh, I can't imagine, okay, make it a priority. Imagine a city with no visitors.
Yeah,
That's,
no, that'd be no fun.
you can't have that either. You have the puzzle pieces, they're just not connected yet. It's like you're putting a puzzle together and you have all the pieces, they're just not all quite connected yet. Don't be a best kept secret, that irritates me. You gotta quit that, we gotta quit that. You are creating a healthy community by all the parks and recreation that you already have. You have what people want, they just don't know what they don't know, so we've gotta tell them. And I'm going to give Jill this list of resources of all different ways that, you know, we can keep in touch with the people that might be able to help. So, and then there's a list of next steps, and I'll give those to Andy. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Lori, that was great.